Next up at UFC 270, we have the main event of the evening. A lot of hype coming into this fight. There's conspiracy theorists out there saying the UFC is not promoting this because they don't like Francis. I don't know how people could say that. I've seen more ads for this pay-per-view than anyone I could remember in recent history. We have Francis Ngannou defending the true heavyweight championship belt against Ciryl Gane, who has the interim heavyweight championship belt. Francis Ngannou is 16-3 overall, 5-0 in his last 5, coming off of the knockout win over Stipe Miocic to win the belt. Ciryl Gane 10-0 overall, and he's coming off of the absolute destruction of Derek Lewis. A lot of people's read here is that this is just power versus technique. Francis Ngannou hits super hard. Ciryl Gane's got cleaner technique, and that's it. I disagree with that. I think there's a lot more to this than that. Francis Ngannou is absolutely the scariest guy in the division. He has all the power of Derek Lewis, but he also has technique. He sets up his strikes. He's got a little more volume, and he'll actually work towards something instead of just waiting and throwing wild. He only averages about 2.5 significant strikes per minute, so it's not incredible volume, but he's much more accurate, much more precise. Most people assume that if you take Francis down, you can ride out a win there. But in the 4 fights that he was taken down, he won 3 of them by stoppage. And in his last fight against Stipe, not only did he defend the takedowns, but he actually reversed one and then just took Stipe down from there, dominated the position, reversed it, bang, I'm in control now. His power was on point. His takedown defense was on point. And I don't know how anybody could watch that second fight with Stipe Miocic and leave it thinking that Francis Ngannou is just a power puncher. I don't know how you could possibly do that. Ciryl Gane is identical to Francis in stature. Statistically speaking, they're the same height, they're the same weight, same reach, all the things. But he's a very different fighter. He does not have the power that Ngannou has, but he is a much more technical striker who has high volume and a well-rounded arsenal. He will kick, he will grapple, he'll play the best in and out game in heavyweight history. His striking differential is very impressive at 5-2, which means he's hitting his opponents 5 times for every 2 strikes that he gets hit with. And that just speaks to how incredible his footwork and his movement is. He also uses that footwork to set up takedowns. He took down Dontel Mays 3 times in their matchup and Rozenstruik twice, which also speaks to just his game planning in general. Ciryl Gane can game plan and will make adjustments in a fight. And this should be a very good fight, even if it is not fireworks, which it might not be. I love the former training partner bad blood plot line. It's like a Chuck Tito back in the day, or what they're trying to do with, not trying, but what they are doing with Covington Masvidal now. I also love the clash of striking styles. And a lot of people are comparing this to Gane versus Lewis. Power versus technique. We just saw it a few months ago, and a lot of people are comparing that. But Francis, I said he's more than that. He's more than a one-punch puncher. He's got very good takedown defense. He's an accomplished kickboxer, and he's way more than just weight for one-punch knockout. He's way more than that. A big deal was made of their training footage, and if you watch it, you'll see that Francis was working some techniques, had some kicks in there, he had some movement, where Gane was working a very heavy touch-and-go game. But my biggest takeaway from that footage, and this is what it is, it was just training footage, light sparring at that. My biggest takeaway from that footage was that Francis Ngannou had no care whatsoever what Ciryl was throwing. He just walked right through whatever Ciryl was throwing at him. And yes, it was light sparring, but that means he got into that habit. That means he also did that in their heavy sparring sessions. So, it may literally mean nothing. I've managed fighters for a very long time. I've seen a lot of sparring sessions. Some matter, some don't. And Francis has been saying that footage is nonsense. So, listen, the reality is it is a very technical kickboxer versus a much more powerful kickboxer, but they're both very well-rounded. I originally was going with Francis to win. If you watched our early breakdown a few weeks ago, I picked Francis to win. But this whole issue that Francis has with the UFC, it's just getting worse and worse. And I just feel like so much is going on in that guy's head right now. He's defending himself against the training footage. He's talking about his former coach is a snake, and my therapist told me to stay away from him. He's talking about, I'm never going to fight for the UFC if they're only going to pay me $500,000. He's talking about, I want to go to boxing. And these are all things he's talking about leading up to a title defense against his toughest opponent and his first title defense. And for those of you who don't know, the way championship clauses work, so this is Francis Ngannou's last fight on his contract. If he loses this fight, he is 100% free and clear. There's just like a 30-day or 60-day match period where if he gets offered a contract, the UFC can match it. But if he wins this fight, sorry, Jacob, this is long, but if he wins his fight, the championship clause continues, so he cannot leave. There's not an end to that. So the pay for his next fight, A, he's locked into another fight, and B, the pay for his next fight is already established, and he's made it very, very clear he hates the pay and doesn't want to fight for that. So I think Francis is the better fighter, and you guys jumped down my throat when I said that. I think Francis is the better fighter. I also think it is in his best interest to lose this fight, because if he loses this fight, he will get offers from everywhere for every amount of money that he could possibly imagine getting. Bellator will offer him a ton, boxing, everybody will offer him stupid money. And I'm not saying he's going to throw the fight. I'm just saying there's a lot going on in his head, and losing the fight is the best thing that could happen to him, as ridiculous as that sounds. So here's a crazy conspiracy theory, and then I'll let you go. I would love to see Francis Ngannou beat the brakes off of Ciryl Gane and then just kneel down and tap out. Let himself out of his contract. Let the world know that he was the better fighter. That would be the most spectacular thing to happen in the history of combat sports. Ciryl Gane's my pick because of all the drama. I do think Francis, on a good day, happy, no issues, wins the fight. What do you think?
Ciryl Gane's going to lose the fight, and I think the only way that I think this is the way that Ciryl Gane is going to win the fight, because I think if he dances around and does the Ciryl Gane thing for 5 rounds, I think it works for some other people. Against Ngannou, I just don't think it's going to work. I think eventually those shots are going to land. Derek Lewis obviously wasn't able to get in there, but Francis Ngannou is a much better fighter than Derek Lewis, even though Derek Lewis somehow beat him because they were both scared of each other. But technically, Francis is a much better fighter than Derek Lewis, and he's, like you said, I don't think they're familiar with each other. He's not going to be scared of the power. I think if you try and just do your thing for 5 rounds, you're eventually going to get caught and you're going to get knocked out. If I'm Ciryl Gane, I trust my footwork. I trust my movement. I trust my head movement. I trust my guard. And I get in the pocket with Francis, thinking full defense, not even trying to counter, and just try to let Francis blow his load early. I mean, if you give him the opportunities to hit, he's going to throw bombs, and all that muscle will eventually tire out. If he's learned to pace himself. So if you just play that pace game, he's going to be able to throw bombs, a few times around. If you just let him just blow his load early and just sit there and trust you're in and out and kind of bait him into throwing those big punches, you know what punches he likes to throw, you know what, sets him off in sparring, what he's looking for, give him those opportunities, but trust your footwork, because you do have great footwork, and let him go crazy in the first round and then come out and really start putting the pressure on Francis. But I just don't think Gane does that. I think that he tries to play his game, and eventually he gets caught by a much better Francis Ngannou. And so my pick's going to be Francis.
Yeah, and I also do disagree with the narrative that one punch from Francis and that's the end. I disagree with that. I mean, he has insane power, but he's more than that. And, he's been in some wars where he hit people hard a bunch of times. The first fight against Stipe, obviously the second he actually got the knockout, but the first fight was a war. So, we've seen Francis in wars. And he didn't win them all, but we've seen him in wars. We haven't seen that yet with Gane. It is a heavyweight fight. This could be slow, plotting, all of those things. I don't know how emotional Francis Ngannou is. There's
I'm really interested to hear the press conference, see if they really get into it, see his demeanor, if he just, because he does play it off cool, like in the embeddeds this week.
He didn't shake the hand in the locker room.
But if you watch the embeddeds this week, he's getting massages, he's kind of hanging out. He's like, yeah, it is, this and that. But if he starts getting animated at the press conference, maybe there is a lot of stuff going on in the back of his mind. And we'll see if I just can't see them going after it, because Ciryl doesn't care. I mean, he's too laid back. He's not going to try and get in Francis' head or anything. So, but it'll be interesting.
Well, and I think the beef is between Francis and their coach, not Francis and Ciryl. Because even that whole the locker room snub where he didn't, or the behind the backstage where he didn't go over and say hi after Ciryl like waved, Francis was like, I have no problem with Ciryl. The coach was standing next to him. I hate that guy. I don't want anything to do with it. So anyway, right now the pick is Ciryl because I think there's just so much going on in Francis's head. And honestly, he knows. My theory was a conspiracy theory of the whole beat Ciryl and then tap out so you're out of your contract. But he knows it is literally better for him financially to lose this fight. Because you lose one fight, it's not going to ruin your career. You're still dangerous, Matt, all of those things. And you're a free agent talking about wanting to go to boxing. Bellator will pay you anything you want with the Viacom money. So I think Ciryl Gane is unbelievably talented. He's dancing around. We had Dean Thomas on our show a few months ago hanging out, and we asked him about this, and his pick was Ciryl.
My friend Dean.
I totally understand why everybody thinks Ciryl will win. I think Francis on a good day would probably win, but I don't think it's a good day. There's too much drama. What do you think of DraftKings?
I mean, $7,800 for a guy with the knockout power of Francis Ngannou. I don't know how you don't have him in your lineup. I understand this could be a boring fight and Ciryl could dance around, but I mean, it's just that knockout power, and he's got other tools as well. I mean, he's very skilled everywhere, so.
And he's exactly. He could listen. It's not the craziest thing in the world if Francis Ngannou wins a decision. If he's landing big, heavy shots, and he's not knocking out Ciryl, but he's landing big, heavy shots, and all of a sudden Cyryl's movement isn't great. Francis is at a good gym, and you know what? They might be like leg kick the shit out of him, leg kick the shit out of Ciryl Gane, and let's see if he's still going to dance around. So there's a lot of factors here. I'm really, really looking forward to this fight. One of the few heavyweight fights in a while that I've actually cared about this much. I do have a bet on Francis Ngannou. I have Francis Ngannou wins inside the distance, decision, no action. So if Francis Ngannou knocks out Ciryl Gane, I get paid at -105. But if he loses a one-sided dance-around decision, I get a refund, and nothing happened. Monkey knife fight, probably more. I think this goes a few rounds. What do you think?
More.
More it is. See you guys on Saturday. Thank you so much for the watch. And take all of this live chat conversation and go to the Discord. There's a link in the description. 100% free. We're not charging people for our stuff. Free Discord, link in the description. Take the conversation there. See you guys on Saturday.